What would you do if the person you loved, trusted, and built an entire life with suddenly became the reason your children might never know their own grandfather? What would you do if a single decision, a decision you never expected to face, threatened not just your marriage, but the very identity you've spent years protecting? That's the question Prince Harry woke up with on a quiet morning in Montecito. A question that hit him harder than the headlines, harder than the cameras, harder than the consequences. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. And it all started with 8 words he never imagined he would say aloud. "I'm taking the kids to see my father." Those words set off a chain reaction that shook Meghan to her core, because she knew exactly what it meant, and she knew exactly what could come next. But the part she didn't see coming, the part that blindsided her, was what Harry whispered after their fight reached its breaking point. "I'm divorcing you." Now, before you think this is just another royal drama headline, let me stop you. This story is different. This time, the stakes aren't fame or reputation. This time, it's not about titles, money, or media narratives. This time, it's about 2 innocent children caught between 2 clashing worlds. A grandfather fighting time, a father battling guilt, and a mother fighting for control over everything she believes is slipping from her grasp. Right now, this moment, something has shifted inside Prince Harry. Something irreversible. And what Meghan did in response is something even Harry's closest friends are still struggling to understand. But let's begin at the only place this story truly makes sense to begin. The moment Harry realized time was running out. It was early. That strange, quiet California dawn where the fog sits low and heavy like a secret refusing to lift. Archie was asleep. Lily was curled up with her toys. And Harry was sitting alone in the kitchen, staring at his phone like it had turned into a confession booth. On the screen was a message he had reread 100 times. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't even long. Just a simple request. "Come home. Bring the children. I miss them." Signed, the one person Harry has spent 4 years running from and wishing he could run back to at the same time. His father, King Charles. The message wasn't sent by Charles directly. That's not how the firm communicates, but Harry recognized the phrasing instantly. It was Charles's voice disguised behind palace formality. A voice Harry hadn't heard in months. A voice that now sounded tired, older, lonely, a little desperate. And that last word, desperate, is the one Harry couldn't shake. Because for the first time, it was Charles who needed him. Charles, the father he resented. Charles, the monarch he criticized. Charles, the man he blamed for his pain. Charles, the grandfather his children barely knew. Harry swallowed hard. His hands shook. Because there was one person he knew would never, not in a million years, allow the children to go to the UK. Meghan. Not after everything. Not after the interviews. Not after the memoir. Not after the fallout. Not after the stories, the headlines, the allegations that made reconciliation nearly impossible. And that's when Harry felt it. Guilt. Heavy. Cold. Suffocating. Because deep down, he knew Meghan's anger wasn't the only thing keeping the children away. Some part of him, the part that had trusted the wrong people for too long, had agreed with her. But now Charles's health was the question no one dared ask in public. Now every royal insider was whispering concerns behind closed doors. Now royal engagements were being reshuffled. Now everything was becoming a countdown clock. And Harry, for the first time, felt like the hours were slipping away. He stood up. He paced. He replayed the last time Charles saw the kids. A blurry FaceTime call. A few awkward minutes. A polite smile. Then excuses. Bad Wi-Fi. Nap time. Scheduling. Always scheduling. It had been months. Too many months. Harry blinked hard, fighting tears he didn't want to admit were there. What kind of son was he becoming? What kind of father was he becoming? And then, the real question. If something happened to Charles, if the worst happened, would Archie and Lily even remember him? The thought shattered him. And at that exact moment, in that quiet kitchen, Harry made a decision. A decision that would fracture the marriage he had spent years defending. A decision that would turn Meghan's world upside down. A decision that would make him confront every fear he'd been avoiding. He decided, with a certainty that surprised even him, that he was taking his children to see their grandfather, no matter what it cost. And that's where everything unraveled. Because Meghan walked into the kitchen 5 minutes later. She looked at Harry. She looked at the phone. She saw the message. The whole message. Her expression changed instantly, subtle, but sharp, like a switch being flipped. You're not actually considering this, right? Harry didn't answer immediately. And that silence? That silence said everything. Do not take those children back there, she said, her voice low and clipped. Harry felt something rise inside him. Something bold. Something tired of being quiet. He said the words before he could stop himself. They're going. Meghan froze. You're not serious. I am. No, you're not. You can't just make decisions like that. Not without me. Harry exhaled. Meghan. No. Don't Meghan me. This is exactly what they want. They're manipulating you. They always manipulate you. Harry stepped toward her, not confrontationally, just humanly. He said the words he had never said before. He's their grandfather. And Meghan shot back. And I am their mother. Harry felt the air tighten. Because that sentence, that particular sentence, was not about Charles. It wasn't even about the children. It was about control. Something Meghan was terrified of losing. Harry's jaw clenched. His heart raced. And then Meghan said it. I won't let you take them. No negotiation. No discussion. Just a flat, unshakable wall. Harry's breath caught. Won't let me? Meghan's eyes didn't move. You heard me. The argument that followed wasn't loud. It wasn't messy. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of argument where every word feels like a sharp edge. Where every sentence lands like a small betrayal. Where both people know something is breaking even if neither wants to admit it. Harry tried to explain, calmly, that this wasn't about the monarchy. It wasn't about reputation. It wasn't about returning to the institution they fled. It was about Charles. The man. The father. The grandfather. But Meghan wasn't hearing him. She had already moved into strategic mode. Fast, calculating, and icy. She brought up their safety. The British press. The tabloids. The risk. The past trauma. The lack of security assurances. The emotional impact. The negative optics. The potential for leaks. The political implications. The institutional hostility. She built a fortress of arguments around herself, one stone at a time. And with every new reason, Harry felt the distance widening. Not between Meghan and Charles. Between Meghan and him. And somewhere between her seventh and eighth point, something inside Harry snapped. He didn't shout. He didn't slam anything. He didn't storm off. He simply said, almost whispered, I'm going. Alone. Meghan inhaled sharply, like she'd been slapped. No, you're not. Harry looked at her, really looked at her, and said the sentence that shattered whatever was left of the morning. Then maybe we shouldn't be doing this anymore. Meghan stared at him, stunned. Doing what? This. Us. Marriage. Meghan's face drained of color. Are you saying you want to divorce me? Harry didn't answer right away. And that pause, that heavy, lingering pause, told her everything. Because for the first time ever, Harry wasn't just threatening to walk away from the institution. He was thinking about walking away from her. Meghan stepped back, physically stepped away. Her breathing quickened. Her hands trembled just enough for Harry to notice. You're throwing away everything for him? She whispered. Harry shook his head. No, I'm choosing our children. But Meghan wasn't listening anymore. She was staring at the floor. Silent. Cold. Wounded. Calculating. And that's when Harry knew this wasn't just a disagreement. This wasn't just another fight. This wasn't just stress. This was the beginning of something else. Something deeper. Something irreversible. Something that would change the trajectory of their marriage. Something that would drag both of them into a war neither had prepared for. Because Meghan was already planning her next move. And Harry could feel it. He didn't know what she would do. He didn't know how far she would go. He didn't know what she would sacrifice to keep control. But he knew, instinctively, painfully, that whatever came next would be the moment their marriage would never recover from. Because Meghan Markle wasn't about to let Harry walk away without a fight. And she definitely wasn't going to let the children go quietly. But what she did next, what she did in the hours after this confrontation, was something no one expected. Not Harry, not the palace, not even Meghan's closest advisors. It was bold. It was defiant. It was emotional. It was strategic. It was explosive. And it was only the beginning. Because what came next would change everything. And no one saw it coming. The moment Prince Harry finally realized he could lose his children forever didn't happen on a balcony, under flashing cameras, or during some royal event etched into the public memory. It happened in a small, dimly lit room in Montecito, with no audience, no advisors, no staff. Just a father staring at the quiet truth of his own reflection. It happened in silence. The kind of silence that's louder than any argument. And it began with one simple, painful thought. If I don't act now, my children may never know my father. The thought struck Harry like a physical blow. He felt winded by it, stunned, almost embarrassed by how obvious it suddenly seemed. How long had it been since Archie last saw King Charles? How many moments had slipped through the cracks while he and Meghan fought their battles, crafted their narratives, and tried to rebuild a life far from the palace walls? Too many. Far too many. But the breaking point, the real breaking point, came not from memory, but from a whisper. A whisper Harry thought he would never hear. A whisper that came from a voice softer, older, and more defeated than he remembered. It was the voice of King Charles. A man Harry had demonized and defended in the same breath. A man he had blamed and longed for. A man who had lost a wife, lost his heir's trust, and now seemed on the verge of losing something even more devastating. The chance to be a grandfather. The message had arrived just before dawn, delivered through a trusted palace intermediary. But it might as well have been Charles himself standing right beside Harry. Come home. Bring the children. Let me see them. Please. Please. Harry couldn't shake that last word. How many times had he waited for his father to say please when he was a child? How many times had he wished Charles would soften, would beg, would fight for him, would show emotion instead of protocol? Now the tables had turned. Now it was Harry who held the power, and Charles who held the fear. He should have felt vindicated. He should have felt like this was the moment he had waited for. But he didn't. Instead, Harry felt sick. A deep, twisting sickness that settled in his stomach like a confession no one wants to say out loud. Because despite everything that had happened, despite the interviews, despite the book, despite the tensions, the criticisms, the bitterness, he still loved his father. And worse, he still needed him. But here's the contradiction Harry couldn't escape. He had spent years proving to Meghan, and to himself, that he didn't. He had built a life on the premise of escape. On the idea that the monarchy was a threat, not a refuge. On the belief that the only way to protect his family was to cut ties entirely. But now the same man he had fled from was reaching out not as King Charles III, but simply as Dad. It was enough to break Harry's resolve. He sat down. His hands trembled. His throat tightened. And then the darkest question of all drifted quietly into his mind. What if this is my last chance? The question pushed him into a place he'd been avoiding for months. A place of grief he had no tools to handle. Because Harry knew what losing a parent felt like. He knew how quickly life could flip from normal to tragic. He knew how guilt could haunt a person long after the cameras stopped clicking. He knew how regret could carve its way into a soul and stay there forever. He had lived that nightmare at 12 years old. And now, 27 years later, he was terrified of repeating it. Harry stood up. He paced the room. His thoughts collided like waves. Should he ignore the message? Should he discuss it with Meghan? Should he wait for more information? Should he prioritize the marriage or the moment? He didn't know. All he knew was that something inside him, something buried under years of pressure, was finally rising to the surface. A need, a longing, a duty not to the crown, but to his children. Because here's the truth Harry had never spoken out loud. He didn't leave the royal family for himself. He left for them. And now, confronted with the possibility of losing the last meaningful bond they could have with their grandfather, Harry realized he had created a new problem. By trying to protect them, he may have deprived them. By shielding them from the institution, he may have robbed them of relationships. By fighting for their freedom, he may have isolated them entirely. And that realization cut deeper than any royal scandal ever could. So Harry decided, in that quiet, private, raw moment, to do something he hadn't done in years. He would put the children first, even if it meant defying Meghan, even if it meant risking their marriage. He would take Archie and Lilibet to see King Charles. Not for the monarchy, not for image, not for duty, but because a child should know their grandfather. And a grandfather should not die without knowing his grandchildren. Simple as that. But nothing in Harry's life had ever been simple. And despite the courage rising inside him, despite the clarity of purpose, despite the fatherly instinct kicking in, there was one problem. A problem with brown hair, sharp intuition, and a will many underestimated. Meghan Markle. Harry knew, with absolute certainty, that she would fight this decision with everything she had. He knew she would push back, strategize, activate her network, leverage emotion, and frame the argument as one of protection and survival. He knew she would question his motives. He knew she would accuse the palace of manipulation. He knew she would ask, "How could you betray me like this?" And the worst part? Harry didn't know how to answer that. Was it betrayal? Or correction? Or liberation? He didn't know anymore. All he knew was this. If something happened to Charles without the kids seeing him, Harry would never forgive himself. And Meghan, intentionally or not, was standing in the way of something Harry could no longer pretend didn't matter. The tension between them had been building for months. Small disagreements, quiet silences, too many emotional wounds left untreated. But this felt like the spark that could ignite everything. And Harry wasn't wrong. Because what happened next, what happened later that same morning, was the moment everything shifted. The moment Meghan discovered the message. The moment her expression changed. The moment their marriage took its sharpest turn yet. The moment Harry realized this wasn't just a disagreement. It was a battle. A battle where the stakes weren't fame, reputation, or virtue signaling. It was far more dangerous than that. This battle was about control, about identity, about influence, about the life they had built together and the cracks forming beneath it. And the first shot fired in that war, it came sooner than Harry expected. Because just as he built up the courage to tell Meghan what he planned to do, she walked into the room. She saw the phone. She saw the message. And she instantly understood everything. Not because she had been told, but because she knows Harry better than anyone else. She knew his guilt was resurfacing. She knew his longing for family was returning. She knew his vulnerabilities were being exposed again. And she knew the palace, in her view, had struck at the perfect moment. Her expression hardened. Her jaw tightened. Her eyes narrowed. She said 3 words. "Absolutely not, Harry." But her tone said much more. It said, "I'm in control. I set the rules. You don't make decisions without me. Not about the children." Harry inhaled. Slow. Deliberate. He tried to speak gently. He tried to explain. He tried to be the calm one. But Meghan wasn't listening. She was defending something deeper. Something personal. Something rooted in fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of losing narrative. Fear of losing him. And Harry saw it. He saw the panic behind the certainty. He saw the insecurity behind the assertiveness. He saw the fear behind the anger. But he also saw something else. She wasn't going to let him go through with this. Not quietly. Not willingly. Not peacefully. This was going to be a fight. A real one. And Harry, for the first time, wasn't sure if he was ready. Because the decision was no longer just about the children and the king. It was about his marriage. It was about whether he could stay in a relationship where he felt like his choices no longer mattered. It was about whether he could survive being torn between his wife and his father forever. He didn't know the answers yet, but he knew one thing. He had already lit the fuse, and Meghan was about to feel the explosion. Because what she did next, what she did in response to Harry's decision, would send their marriage into the deepest crisis it had ever faced. And the first sign of that unraveling came in a form Harry never expected. A list. A literal list. A list that would change everything. But that's the moment we'll get to next. Because the shock of that list, the strategy behind it, the quiet threat hidden in its wording, that's where the story gets even darker. And no one, not even Harry, was prepared for what it meant. But what came next would change everything. And no one saw it coming. She wasn't supposed to open his phone. She knew it. He knew it. Anyone in a marriage knows it. But rules, especially unspoken rules, have a way of disappearing when fear enters the room. And Meghan was afraid. Not the loud kind of fear that makes a person scream or panic. The quiet kind. The creeping kind. The kind that twists the stomach before the mind even understands why. Because when she stepped into the kitchen that morning and saw Harry clutching his phone like it was a lifeline, her instincts told her something was very, very wrong. He didn't look up when she walked in. He didn't say good morning. He didn't do that awkward half smile he always did when he was trying to pretend everything was fine. Instead, he stood frozen, shoulders tight, head bowed as if bracing himself for impact. And Meghan knew immediately. He was hiding something. She had seen that posture before, years ago, when the press was tearing them apart. when advisors whispered half-truths into their ears, when Harry was drowning in guilt and didn't know how to tell her what he was feeling. But this felt different, more immediate, more dangerous, more final. So she walked closer, quietly, carefully, soft enough not to startle him, but hard enough to make her presence known. He didn't lift his head, and that's when she saw it. The message, the one that shattered every illusion she thought she still controlled. Come home. Bring the children. Let me see them. Please. Her heart dropped. Not because she didn't expect the palace to reach out eventually. They always do. But because Harry's expression told her everything she needed to know. He was considering it. The idea of going back. The idea of bringing the kids. The idea of reconnecting with his father. The idea of giving the palace. The same palace she believed had destroyed their lives. Exactly what they wanted. And the thought made her blood run cold. Harry sensed her behind him then. Not by sound, but by temperature, by instinct, by the way the room seemed to shift. He finally looked up. Their eyes met. It wasn't anger she saw on his face. It wasn't guilt. It was resolve. And that scared her more than anything. Because resolve meant he wasn't just thinking about it. He had already made up his mind. Meghan's voice came out sharper than she intended. What is that? Harry didn't answer. And that silence, that tight, stretched silence, gave her the courage to step closer and look directly at the screen. She read the message once, then again, then a third time, and with each pass, her breath grew shorter. No, he wouldn't consider this. He couldn't. Could he? She looked up at him, searching his face for reassurance, for denial, for some sign that she was misreading everything. But Harry didn't soften. He didn't explain. He didn't comfort her. He simply stared at her with a kind of exhausted determination she had never seen before. It terrified her. Harry, she said quietly, tell me you're not thinking about this. He didn't answer, and that was answer enough. What followed was not an explosion, not a fight, not a dramatic scene like the media would imagine. It was much worse. It was a slow-motion fracture. You can't be serious, Meghan whispered, stepping back as if the room itself had spun. You can't actually be considering taking our children into that environment. Harry swallowed. Meghan, he said cautiously. Don't Meghan me. She snapped, voice rising but cracking at the edges. Do you realize what you're saying? What you're risking? What this means? Harry closed his eyes briefly, as if bracing for a storm. I'm not risking anything. I'm trying to give them something. Meghan blinked. Hard. Give them something? Harry nodded. A relationship with my father. Her jaw tightened. A relationship with the man who abandoned you emotionally? A relationship with the institution that smeared us? A relationship with people who don't even want us? Harry took a slow breath. They want to see the children, Meg. Do you know that for sure? Or do they just want to use them? Use us? Use you? Harry flinched, and Meghan saw it. Good. Let him feel it. Let him remember. But instead of arguing the way she expected, Harry did something she didn't anticipate. He stepped toward her. Not aggressively. Not confrontationally. Gently. Meg, my father isn't well. Meghan's breath caught. She wasn't prepared for that. Not because she doubted it. The rumors were everywhere. But because she didn't expect Harry to say it out loud. Not to her. Not like this. She shook her head slowly. Harry, even if that's true, and we don't know that it is, it doesn't justify putting our children in that environment again. Harry's shoulders tensed. They're going, Meghan. The words fell out of his mouth like a confession he had been holding inside for too long. Meghan stared at him. Cold. Still. Silent. Then her voice came out barely above a whisper. No, they're not. Harry's eyes darkened. Meghan recognized the look. The stubborn streak he almost never unleashed against her. It was the look of a man who had already made his decision and was simply informing her. This wasn't a discussion. This wasn't a negotiation. This was a declaration. And Meghan felt panic rising in her chest. She stepped forward, lowering her voice, trying to ground herself. Harry, please listen to me. You can't just make a decision like this. Not alone. Not about our children. Harry exhaled shakily. I'm not making it alone. I'm making it as their father. Meghan closed her eyes, swallowing the sting in her throat. Their father. The phrase hit her like a slap. Not our. Theirs. She opened her eyes again, suddenly more afraid than angry. You think I'm standing in the way, don't you? Harry didn't answer. His silence was louder than any accusation. Meghan felt her nails dig into her palms. So that's what this is about. You think I'm controlling you. You think I'm controlling them. Still nothing from Harry. Just quiet, suffocating confirmation. Meghan laughed, a short, pained, humorless sound. Wow. So that's how little you think of me. Harry shook his head quickly. It's not that, Meg. You're not controlling. I need to do this. She stepped closer, her voice trembling. You think I don't? You think I don't want them to have a family? You think I haven't questioned everything too? Harry softened a fraction. Then, let's take them. Meghan froze. And there it was. The line she had been dreading. The line she hoped would never come. The line that told her everything had officially changed. He wanted to go back. To see his father. To reopen wounds she had spent years helping him heal. To step into the very world that had chewed her alive. And he expected her to follow. Meghan's voice dropped into a whisper. I'm not going back there. Harry nodded. I know. Then he said the words that changed everything. Then I'll go alone. The room went still. Meghan felt the air leave her lungs. Alone. He said alone. Not we. Not us. Not our family. Alone. And that was the moment Meghan knew this wasn't about the children anymore. Not entirely. This was about Harry. His identity. His guilt. His conflict. His longing. And none of it included her. Her voice came out uneven. You'll take them from me? Harry's head snapped up. No. I'm not taking them from you. I'm taking them to see their grandfather. Meghan shook her head, tears stinging her eyes. It's the same thing. Harry's voice cracked. Meg, please don't turn this into something it's not. She laughed bitterly. Turn it into something? Harry, you're talking about taking our children across the world to people who have openly despised us for years. They don't despise us, Harry said softly. Meghan stared at him like he'd grown a second head. Don't tell me you believe that. Not after everything. Harry didn't respond. And that was the moment the fear turned into something darker. A sense of betrayal. A sense that she was losing her grip on the one person she thought she could always rely on. The one person who had chosen her over the world. The one person who had walked away from a throne for her. And now? Now he was choosing them. The people who pushed them away. The people who questioned her motives. The people who didn't believe her. The people who made her feel like she didn't belong. Harry didn't understand. He had no idea what it felt like. But Meghan knew. And she wasn't going to let her children feel it too. She wiped her eyes, straightened her back, and spoke with the kind of quiet, controlled force that made Harry's stomach twist. You are not taking them. This time, Harry didn't hesitate. Yes, I am. Her heart cracked. She felt it physically, like something tearing inside her. Her voice broke into a whisper. Then maybe you don't need me anymore. Harry's face changed, and Meghan saw the truth before he could say it. He didn't deny it. Not immediately, not instinctively, not automatically, the way he used to. And that sliver of hesitation, that tiny, devastating silence, told Meghan everything. This wasn't just about the trip. This was about the marriage, about the distance, the resentment, the unspoken frustrations, the emotional exhaustion neither of them had acknowledged. Meghan stepped back, her voice barely audible. Are you saying you want to leave? Harry swallowed hard. Meg, I don't know what I want anymore. Meghan's knees nearly buckled. He doesn't know. He doesn't know. All these years, all the battles, all the sacrifice, all the decisions, all the pain, all the narratives, all the choices they made together. And now he didn't know. She felt something shift inside her, a mix of heartbreak, anger, and survival instinct. Because Meghan had been underestimated her entire life. And she wasn't about to be blindsided again. She lifted her chin, wiped her face clean, and walked out of the room without a word. And Harry, exhausted, confused, crushed, didn't follow. He didn't run after her. He didn't call her name. He didn't apologize. He just stood there, alone, not realizing that Meghan's silence was not surrender. It was calculation. And what she did next, what she did in the hours that followed, would change the trajectory of their marriage forever. Because she wasn't planning to argue. She wasn't planning to beg. She wasn't planning to break down. She was planning something far more powerful. Something Harry never expected. Something that would send shockwaves through their household and force Harry to confront a truth he had been avoiding for years. And it all began with a single decision she made before noon that day. A decision Harry didn't see coming. A decision that would leave him speechless. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. It started with a sound. Not a scream. Not a slam. Not even raised voices. Just the quiet, measured tap of Meghan's footsteps crossing the hallway. Harry recognized that sound immediately, the sound of a woman who wasn't panicking, wasn't crying, wasn't collapsing, but preparing for a fight, preparing for a defense, preparing for a strategy. When Meghan entered a room with a plan, her footsteps always changed, precise, deliberate, and steady enough to make anyone feel off balance. Except this time, it wasn't Harry who felt off balance. It was the entire foundation of their marriage. Harry stood in the kitchen, still gripping the edge of the counter, trying to steady his breathing. He didn't know whether to follow her, apologize, or stand his ground. For the first time in years, he had no script, no talking points, no PR guidance, no therapist-approved communication cues. Just the raw, frightening truth of a man torn between the woman he loved and the man who raised him. He rubbed his face with both hands. What am I doing? What am I actually doing? Before he could answer himself, Meghan reappeared in the kitchen doorway, her expression unreadable, not angry, not devastated. Focused. Harry straightened instinctively. She held something in her hand. A notebook. Closed. Slim. White cover. Harry had seen that notebook before. It wasn't a diary. It wasn't a planner. It wasn't for shopping lists or reminders. It was the one she used when she needed clarity. When she needed answers. When she needed control. Oh God. Harry felt a cold rush run through his body. She placed the notebook on the counter between them. Meghan? What is this? She didn't answer immediately. She opened the notebook. Turned a page. Then another. Her movements were calm. Too calm. Finally, she stopped on a blank page, smoothed it with her palm, and looked up at Harry with unbelievably steady eyes. We need to talk about custody. Harry's breath vanished. Custody. The word hung in the air like a blade. Not plans. Not options. Not visits. Not schedules. Custody. Harry's heart pounded so hard he felt it in his throat. Meg, what are you doing? Meghan inhaled slowly, not shakily, not emotionally, slowly, like someone about to make the most measured argument of their life. You said you were taking them, she said quietly. So we need to discuss what that means. Practically, legally, emotionally. Harry shook his head. I said I was taking them to see my father, not taking them from you. Her voice remained calm. Harry, that's not how custody works. I'm not talking about custody, he snapped. I'm talking about a visit. Meghan closed the notebook halfway, her fingers still holding the place. Visits require agreement. We don't have one. So this becomes a custody matter, Harry. Harry stepped forward, frustration pressing into every muscle. No, don't do this. Don't turn this into a legal negotiation. Meghan lifted her chin. I'm not turning it into anything. You started this when you decided to take the children without my consent. Harry felt his pulse spike. It's not without your consent. I'm asking you right now. Meghan gave him a tight, almost sympathetic smile. You're not asking. You already made your decision. I'm simply responding to it. Harry ran a hand through his hair. Meg, please. Be reasonable. I am. Her voice was so level that it terrified him more than anger ever could. Harry forced himself to breathe. Then what exactly is this? This notebook? This custody talk? She slid the notebook fully open now. On the blank page, she began writing. Harry watched as her pen moved, slow, deliberate strokes forming a list. He felt sick. Meghan spoke without looking up. If you're determined to take the children to the UK, even temporarily, then I need assurances that their well-being is protected, that my rights are protected, that this situation is handled properly. Harry leaned closer, reading the first few words she had written. Non-negotiable conditions. Oh no. His vision blurred for a second, a mixture of disbelief and dread. Meg, we're not doing this. We're not making lists of demands. This is our family, not a contract negotiation. She kept writing. Harry's chest tightened. Meghan, stop. She didn't. Harry reached for her wrist, gently. Meg, please. For the first time since she entered the room, her composure cracked. She jerked her hand back like his touch had burned her. Don't you dare, Harry. He froze. She shut the notebook with a slap that echoed much louder than it should have. Don't you dare tell me not to protect my children. Harry felt the words like a punch. Our children. They're our children. Meghan's voice rose, finally breaking through the calm exterior. Are they? Because right now it feels like you're making decisions as if they're only yours. Harry's mouth opened to respond, but no sound came out. She had reversed the argument, twisted it into something he never intended, something she could claim moral ground on. And in that moment, Harry realized something painful. This wasn't just about the trip anymore. It was about control. Control of the narrative. Control of the children. Control of him. And Meghan wasn't going to let any of it slip. She opened the notebook again, but this time, she slid it toward him. "Read it." Harry hesitated. "Read it, Harry." His stomach in knots, he lowered his eyes to the page. There were 7 handwritten bullet points, neatly aligned, perfectly spaced, each word carved with determination. He read the first: "No unsupervised visits with royal staff present." Then the second: "Children are never to be photographed without prior written approval." The third: "No overnight stays in royal residences." Harry blinked hard. "Meg, these conditions are impossible. You know they are." She didn't answer. He continued reading. "Fourth, direct contact with the palace must be transparent and documented. Fifth, full itinerary must be provided and agreed upon in advance. Sixth, children must be accompanied by me or a mutually approved guardian." Harry felt his throat close. And the seventh? The seventh made his heart stop. "Failure to comply with any condition will trigger immediate legal action regarding custody, jurisdiction, and parental rights." Harry's head snapped up so fast Meghan flinched. "What the hell is this?" Meghan straightened, her expression a mixture of resolve and something deeper: fear. "This is what protecting the children looks like." Harry's voice shook with a mixture of shock and fury. "This is a threat." Her voice broke. "This is me fighting for my family." Harry slammed his hand on the counter. "This isn't a family discussion. This is a hostage agreement." Tears filled Meghan's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "You push me into this," she whispered. "You force my hand." Harry stared at her, chest heaving, jaw clenched so tightly it hurt. "Forced your hand?" Meghan nodded. "What did you expect me to do, Harry? You blindsided me. You told me you would take the children without me. You walked all over every boundary we set. What did you think I was going to do? Smile? Agree? Watch you walk out with them?" Harry stepped toward her, voice low, raw, breaking. "I never said I'd take them from you. I said I'd take them to see their grandfather. You're the one who made it into a war." Meghan's breath trembled. "It already is a war." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Their breathing was the only sound. Uneven, shaky, desperate. Then Harry said softly, painfully, "Do you really think I would ever take them away from you?" Meghan didn't answer. Not because she didn't know, but because she wasn't sure anymore what she believed, what she feared, what she projected. And Harry saw it. He saw the doubt. He saw the insecurity. He saw the fear that had been building inside her long before this argument. That fear wasn't about the trip. It wasn't about Charles. It wasn't even about the children. It was about losing Harry. And she was fighting with everything she had to stop that from happening. But Harry was fighting something different. He was fighting the suffocation he hadn't realized had been growing inside him for years. And that difference, that tragic, painful difference, created a chasm so deep between them that neither knew how to cross it. Meghan closed the notebook slowly, as if sealing a contract. When she spoke again, her voice was steady. "If you take them, if you go without my agreement, you leave me no choice." Harry felt a cold dread crawl up his spine. No choice for what? Meghan met his eyes directly, unblinking, unwavering. "For legal action." Harry's mouth fell open. "Legal action? Against him? The father of her children. Meg, don't do this. Don't threaten me with lawyers. Not over my own children." She exhaled shakily. "I'm not threatening you. I'm protecting them." The worst part? She believed that. Truly, genuinely believed it. Harry stepped back, shaken to his core. His voice dropped to a whisper. "I can't believe we're here." Meghan closed the notebook, her fingers trembling only for a moment before she regained her composure. "We wouldn't be here," she said softly, "if you hadn't made your decision without me." Harry wanted to speak, to argue, to explain, to plead, but the words wouldn't come. He finally understood something devastating. Meghan wasn't going to compromise. Not on this. Not ever. And that meant Harry would have to make a choice no parent should ever have to make. Defy his wife, or abandon his father in what might be his last chance to reconnect. His voice cracked. Meg, please, talk to me. Don't turn this into a battle. Meghan stared at him, long, hard, and heartbreakingly certain. It already is, Harry. And the worst part? Harry didn't disagree. Because deep down he could feel it too. This wasn't the argument that ended the discussion. This was the argument that started the war. A war that would push their marriage to the brink. A war that would break one of them. A war that would determine the future of their children. But the most terrifying part? Meghan hadn't yet played her biggest move. That would come next. A move so unexpected, so emotional, so calculated. It would leave Harry speechless. And once she made it, there was no going back. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. Most wars don't begin with an explosion. They begin with a signal, a symbol, a gesture, a move so subtle that only the person it's aimed at understands its meaning. That's exactly how Meghan fought back. Not by screaming, not by demanding, not by breaking down. No, she went public. Because Meghan learned a long time ago that the most powerful battles are not fought in private rooms, but in public spaces, where the world becomes witness, judge, and audience all at once. And what she did next wasn't random. It wasn't impulsive. It wasn't emotional. It was calculated. The kind of calculated move someone makes when they feel the ground shifting beneath them and they need to seize control before the entire structure collapses. The world didn't see it as anything unusual. Harry did. And that was the point. Harry found out through his phone, not a message, not a call, but a notification. A photo. A single image blasted across social media. Meghan Markle, smiling, radiant, walking down a Los Angeles street as if she had no care in the world. And at first glance, the picture seemed harmless. Meghan in sunglasses, a beige coat, subtle makeup, hair carefully styled in loose waves. But Harry felt a punch of dread as soon as he studied the details only a spouse would recognize. She wasn't wearing her engagement ring. She wasn't wearing her wedding band either. Gone. Both. Just bare skin. A blank finger where a future once lived. Harry felt heat spread through him. Anger, confusion, betrayal, heartbreak all colliding at once. Not because he thought Meghan was making a breakup statement, but because she knew exactly how it would look. He knew Meghan understood the power of symbolism. Everything she wore had meaning. Everything she didn't wear had meaning too. And the public would notice. They always do. Harry stared at the photo, his pulse spiking as the first headline appeared. Meghan Markle steps out solo amid tension, no ring in sight. Another headline followed seconds later. Why Meghan's missing wedding band has fans asking questions. Then another. Trouble in paradise? Meghan Markle photographed without her ring. Harry closed his eyes. She planned this. Not the paparazzi, Meghan. There was no way a photographer randomly caught her. There was no way she just happened to look perfect. There was no way she didn't know her hand would be seen. This was intentional. Absolutely intentional. The message was clear. I can live without you. I am independent. I am strong. And if you take this fight public, I'm ready. Harry felt a sharp stab of pain deep inside his chest. Because even though he knew it was symbolism, it still hurt. He grabbed his keys. He grabbed his coat. And for the first time in weeks, he drove without thinking. He drove until he reached the one place he knew she would be. A small studio-like space she used for meetings, fittings, and private calls. A place she said helped her feel grounded. Grounded. The word felt like a joke now. Harry parked sloppily, got out of the car too fast, and marched up the steps with more force than necessary. He didn't knock. He pushed open the door. Meghan was sitting at a table with a laptop open, headphones around her neck, her coffee half finished. She looked up slowly. Harry expected guilt, or fear, or at least surprise. He got none of that. She just raised her eyebrows a little. Harry, just his name. Cold, even, unmoved. Harry held up his phone, the photo glowing on the screen. You went out like that? Meghan didn't look at the phone. I went for a walk. With no ring? Her eyes flickered just slightly. Just enough for Harry to see she registered the accusation. I didn't think about it. Harry let out a humorless laugh. That's a lie and you know it. Meghan's jaw tightened. Harry, I'm not doing this with you. Harry stepped forward, his voice shaking. You knew exactly what you were doing. You knew exactly how the press would react. You knew exactly what message it sends. Meghan finally stood up. Her voice rose, not in anger, but in indignation. The message it sends, Harry, is that I'm allowed to walk outside without being accused of performing for the world. Harry's eyes narrowed. You think I'm stupid? Meghan's voice cracked for the first time. I think you're scared, and you're looking for someone to blame. Harry felt the accusation sting. Don't turn this around on me, Meg. This is your move. Your play. Your attempt to get sympathy, again, and turn me into the bad guy. Meghan's face changed. Not with anger. With hurt. Deep, throbbing hurt. And Harry felt some of his rage dissolve immediately. Not because she was innocent, but because she wasn't emotionless. Not entirely. You think I want this? She whispered. You think I want people speculating about us? About our marriage? About my ring? Harry's voice softened, but only slightly. Then why'd you take it off? Meghan inhaled sharply. Because I needed space. Because I needed a moment where I didn't feel trapped by symbolism. Because I'm tired, Harry. She pressed her hands to her temples. I'm so tired of being torn apart by everything. The press, your family, our decisions, your guilt, my fear. All of it. Harry swallowed hard. Then talk to me. Don't talk to the paparazzi. Meghan finally broke. I tried. You didn't listen. You didn't tell me about the message. You made the decision for all of us. Harry opened his mouth, then closed it again. She was right. He hadn't told her immediately. She had seen the message before he could explain. He had given her the impression he was sneaking around her. Meghan took a shaky breath, grabbed her jacket, and began pacing. You don't understand what this means for me, Harry. For us. For the kids. Going back there means reopening wounds I've tried so hard to close. Harry's shoulders slumped. Meg, I'm not forcing you to go. I'm asking you to understand why I need to take them. Her pacing stopped, and then her voice dropped to the softest whisper he had ever heard from her. What if I can't? Harry stared at her. She continued. What if I don't have the strength to walk back into that world? What if I don't have the strength to watch you reconnect with people who destroyed me? What if I lose you? Harry flinched like she'd stabbed him. Lose me? Meg, no. You won't lose me. She looked up with raw, aching honesty. You already are. Harry stepped closer instinctively. Meghan, I'm doing this for the children. Not the palace. Not the press. Not the monarchy. Meghan's eyes darkened. And what about me? The question sliced through him. Because he didn't have an answer. Not one that didn't sound selfish or weak or conflicted. He reached for her hand. She pulled it back. Harry's heart cracked. She wasn't rejecting comfort. She was rejecting vulnerability. Her voice steadied again, returning to that calm, frightening composure from earlier. I'm not going back with you. Not now. Not under these conditions. Harry nodded subtly. He expected that. But what she said next, he wasn't ready for it. So I did what I had to do. Harry frowned. What do you mean? Meghan lifted her phone and showed him something. A social media post. Her own. A polished, elegant photo from the same outing, the one without the ring, accompanied by a caption that read, Prioritizing mental health and personal boundaries today. A gentle reminder to everyone. You're allowed to take space when you need it. Harry's blood ran cold. This wasn't a random paparazzi photo. This was branding, messaging, narrative control. And then it hit him. She was positioning herself as the sympathetic parent, the emotionally exhausted partner, the woman trying to stay strong. And without saying Harry's name once, she made him the unspoken villain. Harry stepped back like she had slapped him. Meg, how could you? Meghan's face was unreadable. I needed to protect myself. From what? You. Harry froze. Meghan swallowed. From your impulsivity. From your guilt-driven decisions. From your need to fix things with people who never valued you. Harry felt his chest tighten painfully. That's not fair. She didn't blink. Neither is what you did. Silence fell. Long. Heavy. Suffocating. Harry sank onto the couch, his head in his hands. This is spiraling, he whispered. We're spiraling. Meghan sat across from him, arms wrapped protectively around herself. Maybe we always were. Harry looked up slowly, and then Meghan said the words that would haunt him for the rest of the day. I won't let you take them. Not without a fight. Harry felt the world tilt. Meg, please don't do this. She shook her head, her eyes filling but not spilling. I already did. Harry froze. Did what? Meghan swallowed hard. I made some calls. Harry felt ice crawl across his skin. What calls? Her voice almost broke. Advisors. Lawyers. People who can protect me and the children if this escalates. Harry's vision blurred. You called lawyers? She nodded. This morning. Before you came. Harry's breath caught in his throat. And it was in that moment, that exact, terrible moment, that Harry understood the full meaning of her public outing. It wasn't a message to the world. It was a warning to him. A warning that she was mobilizing. That she was preparing. That she was ready for a custody fight if it came to that. And Harry felt something break inside him. Something fundamental. Something tender. Something he didn't know how to rebuild. He whispered, "Meg, what are we doing?" Meghan looked at him. Tired, scared, protective, determined. "Surviving, Harry. We're surviving." But Harry knew better. They weren't surviving. They were losing each other. And neither one of them knew how to stop it. But the most devastating part? Meghan wasn't done. She still had one more move to make. Her boldest, most shocking move yet. A move Harry would never have predicted. A move that would send their marriage into irreversible territory. But what came next would change everything. And no one saw it coming. It happened at 3:14 p.m. Harry would remember that exact time for the rest of his life. Burned into his mind like a scar. The way people remember the moment of an accident or a confession or a life-altering decision. He was sitting alone on the back steps of the Montecito house, staring at the ocean without really seeing it. His heart felt like a fist trapped in his chest. His head was pounding, his throat dry, his hands trembling. He had just come back from confronting Meghan. And the world, his world, felt like it was splitting in half. He didn't know whether to be furious, devastated, confused, terrified, or numb. So instead he just sat there, staring at nothing, listening to the waves crash in slow, heavy rhythms that did nothing to calm him. He kept replaying the same questions over and over. How did we get here? How did something so simple become a war? How did the woman I love become the person I fear hurting most? How did I become the man she feels she needs to protect herself from? He pressed his palms into his eyes until stars burst behind them. This wasn't about the trip anymore. This was about everything. And he didn't know how to fix any of it. His phone buzzed. Harry ignored it. He needed a moment, just one moment to breathe, to think, to not be dragged into another argument or crisis. The phone buzzed again. He sighed, picked it up, expecting a message from Meghan, another statement, another boundary, another line drawn in the sand. But the screen flashed something else. A name he hadn't seen in months. A name that made his stomach drop. Lady Bartlett. King Charles's private aide. Harry's breath stopped. No, it couldn't be. Not now. Not today. Not when everything was already falling apart. His thumb hovered over the screen. Should he answer? If he didn't answer, would it look like he didn't care? If he did answer, would it pull him further into the one place Meghan feared most? He swallowed hard. Then he pressed accept. He lifted the phone slowly to his ear. Hello? His voice was barely above a whisper. There was a pause. Then a calm, steady voice. The voice of someone who had worked for the palace long enough to mask panic under a layer of courtesy. Your Royal Highness, thank you for taking the call. Harry closed his eyes. He hadn't been called that in a long time. Not by anyone outside protocol. Not by anyone outside crisis. He opened his mouth. What's happened? Another pause. The kind of pause that prepares someone for bad news. Your father, the voice said softly. He's asking for you. Harry's throat tightened. Not he's requesting. Not he'd like an update. Not he's asking for information. He's asking for you. The difference between those sentences was frightening. Is he all right? The aide inhaled. He's stable. Stable. Harry almost laughed. The bitter, broken kind of laugh people make when they already know what stable means in palace language. Stable meant not good, not worsening yet, not improving either, just holding. Stable was a holding pattern. A waiting room. Stable was not a promise. It was a warning. Harry stood slowly, his legs trembling. What happened? There was another pause, longer this time. Sir, you know I can't disclose medical information over the phone. Harry's voice cracked. Then why are you calling me? Because he's asking for you, the aide repeated gently. He's been asking for you all morning. Harry felt the world tilt. All morning. Meaning. Charles woke up thinking about him. Charles asked for him repeatedly. Charles waited for him. Harry pressed a hand to his chest, trying to steady himself. Okay, he whispered. Okay, is he frightened? The aide's voice softened. I believe he just wants his son. That sentence hit Harry like a punch to the heart. His son. Not the Duke. Not the spare. Not the rebellious prince. Not the runaway royal. His son. And suddenly Harry felt 12 again. standing in the hallway of Balmoral as his world collapsed, wishing someone had asked for him then. The aide continued. He also asked to see the children. Harry closed his eyes tightly. Of course he did. Of course that was the next sentence. Of course that was the part that made everything unbearable. He swallowed hard. The children. They're not here. They're. He hesitated. He couldn't say the truth. They're caught in the middle of a war between their parents. So he said the gentler version. They're at home right now. The aide's voice was careful. He said he misses them. Harry's chest constricted like something was squeezing him from the inside. He misses them. He misses them. How many times did Harry imagine that sentence? How many times did he wish he heard it as a boy? How many times did he feel unseen, unheard, unmissed? And now, in the twilight of their strained relationship, Charles was finally saying it. Too late, too slow, too imperfect, but real. And Harry didn't know whether to be grateful or furious. His voice broke. Does he want me to come? The aide hesitated. Sir, he didn't use the word want. Harry frowned. What word did he use? She hesitated again, this time with emotion in her voice. He asked for you by name. Harry felt tears burn behind his eyes. No titles, no formality, no distance, just you. He whispered. What did he say exactly? There was a long, quiet moment. Then the aide answered. He said, Please tell my boy I need him. Harry felt his knees give out. He sank down onto the stone step, clutching the phone like it was keeping him alive. His voice cracked open into something raw. He said that? Yes, sir. Harry wiped a tear with the back of his hand. Not a delicate tear, not a silent tear, a shaking, breaking, painful one. He whispered, Do you think I should come? It was a stupid question. Of course he should come. But Harry needed someone, anyone, to tell him the decision wasn't betrayal, that it wasn't abandoning Meghan, that it wasn't choosing one world over another, that it wasn't reopening the wounds they spent years trying to stitch shut. The aide's voice softened. Sir, he's your father, and he asked for you. Harry inhaled sharply, his chest tightening with a mix of fear and longing. Then she added, I can arrange a private jet immediately. No publicity, no fanfare, no risks. Just you and the children. Harry's heart stopped. The children. He knew this was coming. He knew this was the moment. He whispered, Is there urgency? The aide's voice trembled. Sir, you should come soon. Soon. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Not when the argument settles. Not when the lawyers finish posturing. Not after Meghan calms down. Soon. Harry swallowed painfully. He whispered, Okay, let me talk to Meghan. The aide replied quickly, too quickly. Of course. But, sir, we're here to support whatever decision you make. Your father simply wants to see you. And them. Harry nodded weakly. He ended the call. Slowly, carefully, like he was afraid the world would detonate if he moved too fast. Then he sat there, phone still pressed to his forehead, breathing in short, trembling bursts. What am I going to do? The words fell from his lips before he could stop them. He already knew the answer. He needed to go. He needed to see Charles. He needed to bring the children. But Meghan would never agree. Meghan would never compromise. Meghan would never let the children go. Not without a full surrender from Harry. And now everything, the marriage, the children, the future, was tangled in one impossible knot. Harry stood abruptly, wiping his face, swallowing the pain, bracing himself for what came next. He had to tell Meghan about the call, and that conversation would either begin repairing the damage or destroy what little was left. He took one step toward the door, then another. His heart was pounding. His stomach was twisting. His breath was shallow. He opened the door. Meg? He called out, voice shaking. No answer. Meg? We need to talk. Silence. He took another step inside, and that's when he heard it. A sound that made his blood run cold. Her voice. On the phone. Low. Controlled. Too calm. She was saying a sentence he was never meant to hear. If he tries to take them, then we proceed immediately. Harry felt his heart stop. Proceed? Proceed with what? He stepped closer, the floor creaking beneath him. Meghan didn't hear him. She continued. Yes. File it. I don't care if he gets upset. He left me no choice. If he pushes this, I'm prepared to go all the way. Harry's world shattered. She wasn't just preparing for legal action. She wasn't just consulting. She was filing. She was escalating. She was already moving into full battle mode. And she hadn't even talked to him first. Harry felt like the ground disappeared beneath him. Slowly, he stepped into the room.